I'm going to start here. Angel Reese wants credit. She's not getting enough credit. She did this too. She taunted Caitlin Clark. She made this whole thing. The reason why WNBA is up is because of Angel Reese.
Jason Whitlock just called out Angel Reese, not just disagreeing, but exposing the financial reality behind her pay demands. While Reese and Carrington consider sitting out for higher salaries, they're missing a key issue.
Dude, I went from liking Angel Reese a little bit to now I don't like Angel Reese. I'm back to like, she's just bad news.
The WNBA faces an annual loss of $30 million. That's a significant financial challenge. Despite this, players are pushing for higher salaries, prompting Whitlock to criticize their approach, comparing it to playing checkers in a game of chess. Could this be one of the most unrealistic demands in sports history?
And, you know, she's fallen right in line with the rest of the WNBA. She's just an angry feminist.
If you believe Angel Reese's demands are justified, wait until you hear Jason Whitlock's take on the WNBA's financial situation. While Reese and other players push for bigger contracts, Whitlock revealed a financial reality that challenges their argument. He didn't just disagree. He exposed a hard truth about women's professional basketball that many fans may not realize.
They have a sit down on Angel Reese's podcast and start talking about the money they want and what the WNBA is planning. If they don't get there, players don't get their money.
When Angel Reese sits on her podcast talking about how WNBA players deserve more, Whitlock points to a harsh reality. The league has been hemorrhaging money for years. We're not talking about small losses either. The WNBA is losing approximately $30 million every single year. Let that sink in for a moment. A league that's bleeding cash at that rate is somehow facing players demanding bigger paychecks.
This kind of talk, and they're not talking about this season, they're talking about next season, their collective bargaining agreement. This is a league that averages losing $25, $30 million a year.
Whitlock didn't hold back in his assessment, arguing that these players are displaying a level of entitlement rarely seen in a league struggling to sustain itself. The most striking part? He suggested that, given the WNBA's financial struggles, players should be paying to play rather than demanding higher salaries. It's hard to imagine any other professional athlete being told that, but that's how serious he believes the situation is.
And these women are talking about, if we don't get what we want, if we don't get what we deserve, if you got what you deserve, you'd be paying to play in the WNBA.
Whitlock's critique stands out because it highlights the disconnect between what these players believe they're worth and the financial reality of the league. While Reese and others talk about value and leverage, Whitlock points to the $25 million to $30 million annual loss as the only number that truly matters. After all, how can you demand a bigger slice of a pie that doesn't even exist?
NBA, to be fair, and you're right about that, silence is golden, and sometimes less is more when it comes to players talking and using their platform and getting out their message.
Whitlock took things a step further when addressing Reese's threat to sit out if salary demands weren't met. His response? He essentially dared her to do it, confident that it would have no real impact on the league's success or viewership.
I wonder, though, if the average WNBA player that none of us knows is actually saying, hey, Angel, would you shut the f*** up? Seriously. This does not the perception of the
Whitlock's reaction isn't just about calling Reese's bluff. It highlights a larger issue unfolding in real time. The constant social media presence and non-stop podcasts are reshaping how fans perceive athletes, and not always for the better. According to Whitlock, WNBA stars are undermining themselves, one tweet and podcast at a time.
You know, Steve, when I watch that video, one of the main thoughts that goes through my head is just like, overexposure.
You noticed how nearly every player now has a microphone in their face? Whitlock called this out, saying that with non-stop interviews and endless podcasts, athletes are unknowingly hurting their own image. He argues that they're stripping away the mystique that once made sports stars feel larger than life.
Everybody is getting interviewed nonstop. Everybody's putting themselves out there, and they don't understand they're harming themselves.
When sees, Whitlock says Angel Reese is playing checkers in a game of chess. He's pointing to a critical strategic mistake. These players are openly sharing every thought, grievance, and demand without fully considering the consequences.
That we're getting too much exposure, Angel Reese, DeJounte Carrington, and the rest of these players. And so athletes from previous generations that didn't have podcasts, didn't have social media.
Think about it. Previous generations knew little about their favorite athletes beyond their performance on the court. Michael Jordan wasn't giving daily updates on contract talks or sharing his thoughts on league policies. He let his game speak for itself.
They had the advantage of, we didn't know much about them. We didn't know how greedy, entitled, stupid, we didn't know because they weren't overexposed.
Whitlock made this exact point, explaining that past athletes benefited from a level of mystery. We didn't know their every thought, demand, or mistake. In contrast, today's players are overexposed through constant podcasts and social media, often revealing traits that may turn fans away. Entitlement, lack of strategy, and short-sighted thinking.
These guys are overexposed and they're playing a game of checkers in a game of chess. Anyway, this is just a bad look for the WNBA. Angel Reese just wants content for her podcast. She's playing checkers in a game of chess.